Jayanandalala Madhyoli Charanam. We're going to continue with Sundaramurthy Nayanar, the beautiful Nayanar that we spoke about last session. Such a unique relationship with the Lord, the friendship. We spoke about his previous life where he was in Kailayam and serving the Lord as an attendant. And what happened that he had to be born on earth. So that we got to know why he came to earth. He was born on earth, and this was the plan made by the Lord, so that we could have these beautiful padigams today, right? We have these beautiful padigams because Sundaramurthy was here. The Lord made him come on earth, be born on earth, and that way we got these padigams. He's also called Alala Sundarar. That was how he was known in Kailayam. And what is Alala? That is poison. When the churning of the ocean happened, when we spoke about Nandi, I particularly mentioned how Nandi also consumed the poison. He was not, there was no fear of, death, or he was not scared what the poison would do to him or affect him. He just went ahead and consumed it just so that he could help the Lord. He was so concerned for the Lord that when Lord Shiva was consuming the poison, he couldn't bear it. He also consumed it, Same way, Alala Sundarar, Sundarar first, he was also there watching this incident when the Lord was consuming the poison, and the poison was spreading all over the place. Alala Sundarar went and collected the poison in his hand, and he came and gave it to the Lord when no one else was even brave enough to touch or go near the poison, because obviously they were getting affected by the fumes all over the place. They couldn't stand, they couldn't breathe. But Sundarar, because of his devotion to the Lord, he could collect the poison and bring it to the Lord. And that is why he's called Alala Sundarar. So that is how he was called in Kailayam. That was his name in Kailayam. Just wanted you to know that also. That is a background of him. And that is the magnanimity. And that is why he was chosen to come down to earth and, teach us how to be a devotee, how to serve the Lord here on earth. Though he had a lot of distractions, this is a place of Maya, right? Where we are is where Maya is in abundance. Now we have more. When Sundaramurthy Nayanar was here, there was not this much. We have so much, right? Social media, television, and name it. Not one channel, thousands of channels. You don't get bored, right? Maya is keeping us very occupied. So Sundaramurthy Nayanar coming to earth, he was not engulfed in Maya. He just was focused. And even when he went when a little detour happened, the Lord just pulled him back, right? That's the beauty of the Lord. Well, that is the boon he had asked, that in case I go out of my path, you need to pull me back in. And the Lord stuck to that boon, and any boon given is always fulfilled, right? We've seen that so consistently. And that is the kindness of the Lord. The little background there of Sundarar. Now coming to the point where we stopped last week, last session. That is the point where he sang the song starting with the word Pitan. The Lord demanded a song. He said, sing a song starting with that word. The Lord is Pitan, if you think about it. He said, you've called me right. I am Pitan. Sundarar was so sad. Already he's heartbroken that he called the Lord Pitan. What is Pitan? Madman. Lunatic. The Lord is a lunatic. In that intoxicated state, where you're not affected by anything. We are so mad about so many things, right? We're mad about our family. We are so attached, mad about our kids. When affection goes beyond a limit, we become mad. But when the madness is channeled to the right place, as in to the divinity, to spirituality, then it's a good madness, a good intoxication. You don't have to have drugs or alcohol to get intoxicated, you know? When you're on the path of spirituality, and when you think about the Lord, and when you get into that state of bliss, that intoxication gives us so much happiness, and you will put in a trance. You don't need alcohol or drugs. This is a good intoxication. So that's why the Lord said, I am mad, because he is in that state where we all can't even think of reaching. And his devotees, his core devotees, are all mad in a good way. So that song was, I did sing one stanza for you, and it's got a couple of more, 5, 6 stanzas, and everything ends with the line that, yes, I am your slave, because the Lord pulled him out and said, you are my slave, right? So that's where we ended. Now, the Lord showed him the path, told him, this is going to be your life. You are going to sing a lot of padigams. He was not a musician. He has not even sung a line in his life. And now he suddenly started singing. Can you imagine? People who have never sung before suddenly started singing. Yeah, if If you're like Sundaramurthy Nayanar, yes. Now, the little bit about that temple where the Lord came and that is took Sundaramurthy into the temple and vanished into the lingam, right? Going to talk about that temple. Thiruvennainallur. He's called Kripapurishwarar. This is the temple. Kripapurishwarar is his name, and the goddess is Mangalambigai. I visited this temple. It is so beautiful. The Sthala Vriksham is bamboo, and the Tirtham is Pennai River. It's almost very old temple. It's almost like 2,000 years old. And the district is Villupuram in Tamil Nadu. Of course, it's a Swayambhu Murti. And the old man, right, who took Sundaramurthy inside the temple, he left his footwear outside. He left his padukas outside and he went inside the temple. These padukas, Sundaramurthy immediately took it and preserved it. These are kept in the temple there. It was so, I have no words. I actually saw those padukas. Just the thought that the Lord had worn it and left it outside that temple it was something. I'm speechless. That's why I'm like, I don't know. I have no words. These are the times when you go numb and you don't have words to explain it. So those padukas are still there in that temple. So if you ever go to Thiruvennainallur, you get to see it. And the Panchayat Mandapam, that the whole the debate and the argument, everything happened, and the case was solved. What is the case? The old man is the owner. Sundaramurthy was slave to him. Case was solved there. That mandapam is also there. As soon as you enter the temple, it's on the right side. I saw that also. Now it's enclosed, but you do get to get inside and see the mandapam. It's 100-pillar mandapam. Now, why is the Lord here called Kripapurishwarar? Of course, we know with Sundarar, he was so kind. He pulled him back in his path. And even if he scolded him, right? He was not happy, right? Sundaramurthy was not even aware that that was the Lord himself. So he called him names. He was angry. He showed his bitterness, but the Lord took it. It's like when we want to correct our child, the child is going in the wrong path, and the child says so many things to us. We take it. We take it. After all, it's our child. Hmm? That is how Amma was. There's not one, like, there are so many people who have showed their bitterness. Nobody can escape bitterness. The Lord is ever forgiving, you know. Now, there's a story of the rishis in Tarukavanam. They were very proud. And this story, of course, I've said it in detail in our Natarajar, Chidambaram Natarajar session, where I've spoken about this in detail. You can go and check that out. But in brief, I'm just going to give you a brief summary of it. So obviously these rishis conducted a big homam to destroy Lord Shiva. I pity them. Obviously, Lord Shiva came and absorbed all their evil powers and kept them under his control. Now they felt helpless because there was no power. Whatever they did was not working. So they come here to this place and they do penance to ask for forgiveness. So the Lord appears as a fire, in the form of a fire. And obviously he forgives them. Now this is a big sin that they did, right? Trying to destroy the Lord himself. Can you imagine that, huh? But the Lord, the ever kind Lord, comes and forgives them. He accepts their penance, their bhakti, their devotion. And they ask for a boon. What is the boon? That he has to remain there. They say, we were so fortunate to get your darshan here, and you forgave us. So, for that reason, whoever makes whatever mistakes, they can come and ask their forgiveness here. And you will forgive them. So please remain here for everybody. That is what they requested the Lord, and he said, okay. He settled there as a Swayambhu Lingam. And that is that from then onwards he's called Kripapurishwarar. That is why he is the God who forgives. Apart from this, there are 3 other lingams here. Arjuna seeked this child boon here from Lord Shiva, and he installed a lingam here called the Vijaya Lingam. There is another lingam called Sundaramurthy, which Lord Indra installed here and worshipped. And there is another lingam called Shankara Lingam installed by Lord Vishnu. So there are 3 more lingams. Now Lord Murugan granted a darshan to Lord Saint Arunagirinathar here. We have spoken about Saint Arunagirinathar many times when we did the Murugan session. And I think during the Thiruvennainallur session, I did explain that Lord Murugan comes dancing on his peacock many times when Saint Arunagirinathar sang a song. And that is why the challenge, we talked about that. So yeah, here is another place where Lord Murugan showed him the darshan dancing on the peacock. Ambal came here after killing Mahishasuran to cool her off, to cool down. So she came here and bathed in the river, and she made a lingam out of butter. This is how she got her form back, because that Rudram forms that she was in Durgai, right? This is why, every time I speak about the gods and the avatarams, when they get angry, we say, right? So many times we go pray, and I've said this many times, but I don't mind repeating it because more you hear, it registers, right? We so easily ask, Amma, why are you quiet? People are doing injustice and you're quiet. You're not doing anything. Why don't you get angry? So I happened to read one of Amma's books. Not sure which one. I don't recall which one, but it's one of her books where she has explained that when the Lord, any avataram, gets angry, it's like the whole world comes to an end. It's not easy to stop the anger. It's not like us getting angry. It's not that simple. Same thing with Narasimha and Avadaram. It took a while for the Lord to come back. And Lord Shiva had to take another Avadaram to stop Lord Vishnu. Same with Kali. When Kali Swarubam happened, Lord Shiva had to come and rescue the world. All the devas ran to Lord Shiva and asked for his help because nobody else could stop Kali. So Durga here, again, she had to seek the Lord's help to get back her form. The Shanta Swarubini, she needed that help because once anger goes in, it's not easy for the Lords to get out. So she comes here and she installs a lingam. She makes a lingam out of butter. That is why the place is called Thiruvennainallur. Vennai is butter. Now the temple is called Thiruarulthurai, home of divine blessings. Now after she installed the butter lingam, she comes back to the Shanta Swarupini. And she's so beautiful. She is goddess Mangalambigai. And I'm not saying this just like that. I stood there awed by her beauty. She was so beautiful. She graces with 4 hands in a standing form. She's standing there. And trust me, she looks like she's actually there. I was mesmerized. Now the goddess and the Lord face east. And the lion is seen outside the goddess's shrine. Obviously, she came here as Durga, right? So the lion is there. Now there is a Vinayagar here called Polla Pillayar. He's a Swayambhu Murti. It's not chiseled by any artisan. It's an idol which just manifested, self-manifested. I believe he is not an ordinary Pillayar. He has the abilities, he has the power to give speech. Those who can't talk, etc., they come and pray to this Pillayar and they get their speech back. So this temple is built by the Cholas in the 10th century. And the temple has 5-tiered Rajagopuram. And there's a small shrine for our Sundarar also here, along with the other shrines, Vinayagar, Murugan, Durgai, Dakshinamurthy, and Chandikeshwarar. And the temple has its own chariot. I'm so grateful to Amma for taking me to this beautiful place. It's really all thanks to Amma. Now back to Sundarar. He was on his journey. Like the Lord said, you have to go to different places and sing. And this is what you have to do. So he came to Thiru Adigai Veerattanam. That's another temple of Lord Shiva. And he didn't want to place his feet over there. So he has a lot of respect for this other Shiva devotee, which we have spoken about too. We have had a session about him, thirunavukkarasar. And he didn't want to step on that land because Thirunavukkarasar has cleaned that place. He always cleans all the temples. That is his, when you read about or listen about Thirunavukkarasar. Wherever he went to Shiva temples, he used to clean it. So he didn't want to step on that land out of respect, because Thiruvennainallur is older than him and he took him as his guru. So he didn't want to step on that land. So he just meditated on that Lord, and he stayed in the outskirts of the village, and he slept in a mutt that night, he slept in a mutt. He was like, I don't want to step on that land. I have too much respect. I have no, he felt he was not fit enough. Can you imagine that? Huh? Have we ever thought of that? Have we ever thought of ourselves as not fit enough to perform something for the Lord, or to even take his name, or to even ask him anything? Have we ever thought of that? We've always thought we had the liberty, right? We have the liberty to do anything and say anything and ask anything. Do you know what that liberty is? That's the ego. When a lot of people have been told by Amma has told them, you have an ego. And they will immediately say, no, Amma, I don't have an ego. I don't. Ego in the modern world is ego that the dictionary says. But ego in spirituality is not the same ego. The Amma says, "Anda ego illamma." So the ego is different. When I say we all have an ego, it's a different ego. That is the ego we have to fight. And that is very difficult. So he thought he was not fit enough, that is equal to Thiruvennainallur, to even step on that land. Who? Sundarar, who the Lord came. He could have had an ego, right? No, he didn't. So when Sundarar was asleep in the mud, those days we have all these, there's no electricity or anything, right? They have these small lamps that they carry with them. And everybody's lamps were off. There are a lot of people sleeping in the mud. They just find a place there and sleep. Nothing fancy. Those days, no luxury, no hotels. This is how it is. If you go on a pilgrimage, this is how you stay. So he just got a space somewhere and he was lying down. And suddenly, after some time, he feels somebody's feet on his head. Someone's feet is on his head. He looks up and he says, Ayya, can you please remove your feet? And he moves. He doesn't say much. He just moves from there and puts his head somewhere else. And he sleeps. He goes back to sleep. Again, he feels a feet on his head. Again. Now Sundarar looks annoyed. He's like, what is this? I moved. Now this old man is putting his feet again. Slowly again, he doesn't say anything. He gets up and goes to the other end of the mud, the room, the hall, to be specific. He moves away and goes to the other end. And he closes his eyes and sleeps. Again, he feels the feet on his head. Obviously, by this time, I guess we would have lost our patience, huh? But Sundarar kindly asked the reason for his abnormal behavior. Yeah, is something wrong? Why are you always putting your feet on my head? Can I help you with anything? The old man smiles and he says, என்ன தெரியலையா உனக்கு? You didn't recognize me? I'm your friend. And then he disappeared. Already it is dark and the man is nowhere. He's gone. That's when Sundarar understands and realizes that the Lord himself had come, disguised as an old man, and he was playing with him, putting his feet on Sundarar's head. He had tears of joy. I mean, think about it. He did not go to the temple, thinking that it's a place too sacred for him to step on. And he just thought it's better for him to stay outside and just think of the Lord. When the Lord himself comes to see him. Even devotees who do so much of prayers and rituals and meditation and whatever, fasting, penance, say it, name it, they can't even touch his feet. They don't even get the opportunity to touch his feet. Huh? But the Lord himself, out of love, this is exactly what Sundarar is thinking and crying. Out of love, you come and you put your feet in my head. On this loser's head, he said. On this poor creature loser's head. I have not done anything. I have not done any of those things. And you come all the way and you put your feet in my head, he says. He cries. Think about that. The holy feet, the lotus feet, was placed on Sundarar's head without even him asking for it. Right? With that, of course, Sundarar is so overwhelmed. He continues on his journey, his pilgrimage, with this in his mind, this kind of incident when it happens, it gives you it's like a energy bar, more than that, right? It's like instant energy. So he continues in his pilgrimage and he goes to Thillai, Chidambaram. He goes into a trance. As soon as he enters he sees the Gopuram. He's in a trance. He cries, he's in ecstasy, intoxication. We were talking about it, the bliss. That is, you have to experience it to know it. That's all I can say. He rolled on the ground and shed tears of joy. He had the darshan of Lord Natarajar there, and a heavenly voice commanded him to go to Thiruvarur. Obviously, he has to listen to the Lord. He continues his journey to Thiruvarur. Now, what does the Lord do there? he goes in the dream of all the Brahmins there in Thiruvarur and tells them that my friend Sundarar is coming to Thiruvarur, so you need to receive him with all due respect. So the Brahmins were ready to receive Sundarar. When he came, all the Brahmins were ready for him. They all said, the Lord came and told us you're coming, and received himself. Just imagine what Sundarar must be going through. The happiness. So he was looking at the lingam there and praying, closing his eyes and praying, and then he heard this heavenly voice. My dear friend, says, I prevented you from getting married. I stopped your wedding. That doesn't mean you have to dress up like this, like a beggar. You need to dress up like a bridegroom from now on, it says, the voice. If you saw Sundaramurthy Nayanar's pictures, right? You go on Google and say Sundaramurthy Nayanar. He'll be the only Nayanar who's really well dressed. He'll be the only Nayanar who's dressed like a bridegroom. It's like he's going to sit in the mede and get married anytime. This was the Lord's will. Poor Sundarar had no choice. The Lord had come and said, you have to dress up like a bridegroom. And immediately, Sundaramurthy had all the outfit, everything was on him. The Lord supplied everything. He became a bridegroom immediately. From then onwards, everybody there, the devotees there who were witnessing all this, they understood Sundaramurthy was not an ordinary person. He was the Lord's friend. Tambiran Thorar. That was his name. The friend of the Lord. Now, why did the Lord ask him to go to Thiruvarur? And why did the Lord tell him to dress like a bridegroom? Because if he didn't dress like a bridegroom, then the mission is not going to be done. What is the mission? He came to marry those two girls, right? The girls are not going to be attracted to him. You have to do whatever is required. So in Thiruvarur, there is a girl, Kamalini. One of the girls are there. She is here as Paravai. I like that name. Paravai. So cute. Every day she would come to the temple and worship the Lord, sing for him. And she had a lot of faith and bhakti. So the Lord obviously wanted Sundara to meet Paravai. So he did everything possible, dressed him up, made him look like a bridegroom. So only then, the girl will notice. So one day Sundarar was in the temple and this girl comes in, Paravai comes in and she starts singing. Sundaramurthy immediately looks at her. His attention is on her. And he likes her. Obviously, the Lord has planned this, right? He immediately runs inside, closer to the Lord, sanctum. And he expresses his desire to the Lord. He said, Swami, I'm sorry, but I don't know why I started liking this girl. She's singing here. Lord Shiva says, of course, why not? You can marry her. I'll arrange it. How simple, right? We have to go through a different channel. It's very tough. This is the easiest channel. So Lord appeared in the dream of both their parents, Sundarar's parents and Paravai's parents. And the Lord tells them, get these two married tomorrow. Wow. They had no time to even print out the invitation cards. It's all fast forward motion. Amazing. நாளைக்கே கல்யாணத்தை முடிச்சிடணும். That's it. Tomorrow is the wedding. Sundarar was very happy. Paravai also, when she saw the bridegroom, he was ready. He was ready, right? Ready, bridegroom. So, ready to sit in the meda and get married. She also liked him a lot, and the wedding happened. Now, Sundarar lived with Paravai happily in Thiruvarur. So, that is their place. Now, we understand why the Lord asked him to go to Thiruvarur, right? So, the first duty is done. Now, in Thiruvarur, there is a person who supplied groceries and all these grains and everything to Paravai to run the household. And Paravai and Sundarar spent their whole time, every day. They used to feed a lot of devotees, lot of people in that place. So anybody who was hungry can go to Sundarar's house and have food. So this was how it was. And you see what Sundarar was doing? Service, right? Now, suddenly, when this was going on, famine struck. Now, what happens when famine strikes? Obviously, food and grains supply is going to go down, shortage of food and grains. Now, the person who was supplying these things came and told his helplessness, to Sundarar. Sundarar has a direct connection, right? Immediately he goes to the temple and sings a padigam. The Lord comes and asks, what do you want? Sundarar tells him that this is what has happened. There's famine everywhere, and this poor person who supplies everything to everybody in this area, he's not able to supply food to us so that we can feed everybody. So the Lord says, I know what to do. Don't worry. So the Lord arranges Lord Kuberan to go and do the needful. So Lord Kubera has brought heaps and heaps of grains and dumped it in the shed of this person. His name is Kundayur Kirar, the person who supplied the grain. His house, his shed is full of grains. Huge heaps of grain. Now, Kundayur Kirar was not aware of this, right? He goes in his shed and he just looks at this and he was shocked, and he didn't know what was going on. Where did all these grains come from? Now, just now he had gone to Sundarar and told his helplessness, and then he comes back home and he saw this. He wanted to run back and tell Sundarar what has happened. Meanwhile, the Lord has already told Sundarar that heaps of grains have been dumped in the shed for the other person. So Sundarar is going towards his house, and this person is going towards Sundarar's house, and both of them meet in the midway, and he takes Sundarar home and shows him the grain. Sundarar is like, oh my God, this is It's not, it's too much. We can't even handle it, you know. How are we going to distribute this? This is too much. And then he goes to the temple again and he sings another padigam. Now, why I'm telling you this is small things, right? Every small, minute thing, Sundarar goes to the Lord and the Lord solves it for him. He sings another padigam and the Lord says, he comes, of course, and what can I do for you, my friend? And he says, well, there is so much grains in um, this man's shed. Can you please see to that all the bags are distributed in every devotee's house in Thiruvarur? But the Lord being the Lord, he said, okay. By daylight, before daylight, he had asked his Shivaganas to come and distribute everything to everybody's house. So every house had grains. Those grains were evenly distributed in everybody's house. I'm not making this up. This is a true story. All the Leelas of Lord Shiva is in Shivapuranam, Periya Puranam. And all this is written already. It's not made up. It's all happened. Now, Paravai has a custom of doing a lot of charity, donating saris and a lot of things to people during the Panguni Uttaram. And she has this custom, you know, she does that every time. Sundarar had no money for that. So what does he do? He goes to Thirupugalur and asks the Lord for gold coins. He asks the Lord for gold. He says, Paravai wants to do charity. Can I please have gold? And that night he sleeps in the temple. He takes 2 bricks and he puts it under his head and he sleeps. He woke up in the morning and those 2 bricks turned to 2 bricks of gold. Turned into gold bricks. I'm not making this up. This is in the Sthala Puranam of that temple. Now Sundarar was very happy. He returned home with those 2 bricks singing a padigam. Now a little bit about this temple, where the bricks turned into gold bricks. Let's see. Let's get to know about this temple a bit. The Lord here is called Agnishwara Swami. Why is he called Agnishwarar? Because Lord Agni got relieved from a curse here. He installed a lingam here and he prayed to the Lord. And that is why the Lord is called Agnishwara Swami. He was relieved of his curse. Now the Moolavar is called Agnishwara, the Ambal is called Karundar Kurali. The Sthala Vriksham is Unnai and the Tirtham is Agni Tirtham. And it's also 2000 years old. And it's in Tamil Nadu, Nagapattinam district. Now it's a Swayambhu Murti, of course. And the great Thirunavukkarasar attained salvation here. This is the same saint that I said cleaned all the Shiva temples. And this is the same saint who Sundaramurthy really looked up to as his guru and didn't want to step into that area. We spoke about that earlier. Now, this is where this saint, he is also called Appar, Thirunavukkarasar, attained salvation. He attained the Lord's feet, the lotus feet, in this temple, Thirupugalur. And because of the brick incident. Which brick incident? The brick that turned to gold. The devotees bring their bricks here before they build their house, right? They bring their brick here and they put it here before the Lord, get it blessed. Before the Bhumi Puja or the construction, they bring it here. Yeah. Well, it's always good to take the Lord's blessings, right? Ambal here is called Shulikambal. Shul in Tamil means pregnancy. So she took care of a woman during her labor time here and ensured safe delivery. So that's why she came to be known as Shulikambal. Now the devotees really strongly believe in that village or around that village. They all come here when they're carrying, and pray to this Ambal, and she's always rescued them, always saved them and protected them. That is what they believe. When you believe, it happens. Faith is so powerful. And people come here and offer their vastrams to Ambal. Now there's a demon, of course, we have spoken about him when we did the Kedarnath, Banasura. He has something to do with this temple. Now the demon, his mother, she was a big devotee of Lord Shiva. Of course, Banasura is also a big devotee of Lord Shiva. Now she wanted the Swayambhu lingam from this place, because she couldn't come from there to do puja to the Lord. So she wanted this lingam there, to her place. So Banasura came here to take the lingam. He's very powerful. We all know he's an asura. He had so many boons. He is very powerful. But he tried so much to pull this lingam out. He couldn't. While doing that, he dug up a big, deep path, agari, very deep agari around the temple. When he tried to move the lingam, he did that. Now the deep path got filled with underwater. He wanted to give up his life because the lingam was not coming out. He was not able to even get it out, to move it. He wanted to give up his life because he couldn't, do this for his mother. He couldn't fulfill her desire. The Lord Shiva immediately comes and says, don't worry. I'll make myself available for your mother when she wants to do puja. And the Lord appeared in front of her as a lingam and left after the puja was done. Back to Thirupugalur. This is, again, not a made-up story. The agari is still there. Deep, broad water body dug by Banasura. It still exists here in this temple. It's called the Bana Tirtham. And this is where the Agni Bhagavan is also worshipped. He got rid of his curse, right? So he's also worshipped here. He appears in a very unique form. He has 7 hands, 7 Jwala sparks, and 3 feet. That's a very rare Agni idol, right? Now the temple was also built in 10th century by the Cholas. It's a 5-tiered gopuram, an inner 3-tiered gopuram. And this temple has all the 63 Nayanmars. Whenever you go to Shiva temples, you see these Small idols, in a long row. I always wondered who they were when I was a kid. 63 Nayanars. And the Agni, Panchalingam, Upper is Thirunavukkarasar, Subramanya, Shani Bhagavan, Annapurni, Mahalakshmi, Vinayagar, and there's a lingam also here that was worshipped by sage Bharadwaja. There are two separate shrines for Upper and Sundarar. Upper is Thirunavukkarasar. With this, we got to know about two temples, right? Kripapurishwarar and Thiruvennainallur. And we got to know about Thirupugalur also, where he's Agnishwarar Swami. With that, we'll end this session today. We'll continue Sundaramurthy Nayanar. Sundaramurthy Nayanar is a long, big session. But it's fun. I like Sundaramurthy Nayanar. So I hope you enjoyed this. Jai Nandalala Madhyali Charanam.